gonna read and we're gonna talk. We're gonna learn and it's gonna rock. We're gonna answer 3 questions, it's a walk in the park. It's Mr. Clark's Corner, now here's Mr. Clark.
Howdy partners, welcome to Mr. Clark's Corner. I'm Mr. Clark and this is my corner, and I'm done talking in a southern twang accent because that's really terrible. Plus, Woody doesn't sound like that, and right now I'm dressed up like the character from Toy Story, Woody, the main character, right? We actually talked quite a bit about Woody and Toy Story in church this last Sunday, and it was kind of fun to go through Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 and kind of talk a little bit about Toy Story 4, but what more did we talk about besides Toy Story? It was a little bit more than just talking about movies, right? And we're in this great series. It's a lot of fun where we all gather in the worship center with the adults and the kids and the teenagers, and we have this great, these fun lessons about some movies, and it's a great time, but it's more than just movies, right? And this last Sunday, while we were talking about Toy Story, we talked about how Jesus has called us all, how he has claimed us all, and he has invited us to be a part of his kingdom, right? And so I want to read something that we read on Sunday, and if you were in church, you may remember, but it's in Matthew chapter 9. And Matthew chapter 9, this is right after when Jesus calls his disciple Matthew. He told Matthew, "Follow me," and Matthew didn't ask any questions. Matthew didn't say maybe. Matthew didn't say, "But Jesus, first I have to clean," right? No, he was, "Okay, fine, I'll follow you, that's great." So right after Jesus asked Matthew to follow him, it says in verse, let's see, we're in Matthew chapter 9. It says in verses 10 through 13. Later, Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house. Many tax collectors and sinners came. They ate with Jesus and his disciples. The Pharisees saw this, so they asked the disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Do you remember what Matthew's job was? Matthew was a tax collector, right? And tax collectors were the worst people. Nobody liked them because they stole money from people. Their job was to tell every person how much money they owed the government. But they didn't have to say the truth. And a lot of times tax collectors would lie. They would say, "Hey, you owe the government $5. But maybe that person only owed the government $2. And then the tax collector would get to keep the other $3. They did this to everyone. They always manipulated and lied and stole from people. And it was wrong, and that's why nobody liked tax collectors, and they considered them to be people like sinners, right? People who weren't people who followed God. So Jesus heard the Pharisees ask, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" And Jesus said, "Those who are healthy don't need a doctor, but sick people do." That's pretty interesting, right? Now, obviously, we go for checkups, right? Everybody goes for checkups. Every year when I was a kid, I had to go for a checkup and make sure that everything was good, make sure I was healthy, check a few things. But Jesus isn't saying, like, I'm a doctor and I came for checkups for healthy people. No, Jesus said, I came for the sick people, right? Doctors aren't there for healthy people. If everyone were healthy, no one would need a doctor, right? But people who were sick need a doctor. And that's what Jesus is saying. The tax collectors and these sinners that you say, well, they may not be following God now, but guess what? That's what I'm here for. Because I'm here to be a doctor to the sick. I'm here to help those, to call those who otherwise wouldn't know who I am, who otherwise wouldn't follow me. But because Jesus was willing to be with these tax collectors and sinners, and he was willing to call them out and make them a part of his kingdom, people like Matthew would follow him no matter what. People like Zacchaeus, who we talked about on Sunday, would follow Jesus even though they otherwise would not have. It's important for us to keep our closest friends to people who know Jesus, who follow Jesus, and have good influences in our lives. But we also can't just pretend like if someone doesn't know Jesus, we can't be their friend. It's important for us not to say, because that person doesn't know God, I can't hang out with them. Sure, we need to make sure that we're good influences, and we need to make sure that we act in a Christ-like manner. We need to be like Jesus would be. But the way Jesus would be is around everybody, telling everybody about his love, and always welcoming people into his kingdom. That's our code word sound, and our code word of the day is toy. T-O-Y, toy, because we talked about Toy Story, and we talked about how Woody was claimed by Andy and Bonnie in the movies, just like Jesus has claimed us. So write down toy on a code word card and put it in the mailbox outside of my office to receive points towards your prizes. That's going to lead us to today's 3 questions. Question number 1, how do you know Jesus has called you? Question number 2, what is your favorite story in the Bible that shows Jesus has called others? Question number 3, have you missed Mr. Clark's Corner? I feel like the answer should be yes, because it's been 3 weeks since we've had a Mr. Clark's Corner. So excited to be back with you guys. Thanks so much for having me, and we will talk to you next time. I'm Mr. Clark, this is my corner, and I am done with this cowboy hat. Adios, amigos!
Okay, we read, alright, we talked. Oh, yes, we learned, and you know we rocked. We even answered 3 questions, man, what a fun day. It's Mr. Clark's Corner, I'll see you on Sunday.